Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Crashing the Boys, grabbing the Todd Master achievement. This is to beat the game on normal, only using Todd. What you want to do is you want to make sure you start up the game, get past the opening intro and all the cutscene stuff, and then you should be on the mode select once you get past the opening. So once you are there, what you want to do is you want to make sure you keep the settings on normal, one player, and make sure you keep the event order the same because we are playing on normal. Pick yes for the OK. Todd is going to be on the Washington High team, which is the second team on the list from the top. So make sure you set your team as that. First event is going to be the 400-meter hurdles. Make sure you select Todd and only Todd during the course of this playthrough. Once you get started, make sure you select the option to shop. That will allow you to buy a power-up to make this a lot easier. Go into the shop and then make sure you buy the spin kick, which is the only thing you could buy since you only have gold medals at this point in the game. So once you do that, make sure you leave and then make sure you head through the entrance and then we can get started on the event. So the 400-meter hurdles are going to be 3 heats of one-on-one races, which you have to take first in all 3 heats in order to win the gold medal, most likely. Thanks to the power-up, the only thing you really have to do is you have to jump, and you should automatically do a spin kick, which should knock your opponent down if they are within your vicinity. So basically, all you have to do is just make sure you move forward and spam the jump button to get over the hurdles. If your opponent is next to you, they should be hit and get knocked down. Keep in mind, this does not make you invincible. They still can get you by throwing a hurdle at you, which you can deflect by using the spin kick. So make sure you try to get a rhythm where you are doing the spin kick and also trying your best to keep them behind you while maintaining a pretty good pace. So all you have to do is just do this for all 3 heats and you should be able to take the win quite easily. Just make sure you don't get too overzealous with your spin kick. Make sure you are timing it in rhythm with your opponent so you are using it to knock them down and also get over the hurdles. If you get one of the taller hurdles, what you want to do is actually run underneath it because sometimes it's good to let your opponent catch up to you so you can re-knock them back. And then all you have to do is just keep this up until both of you finish the goal and hopefully you finish in first. Then all you have to do is just do this for heats 2 and 3. I also recommend taking advantage of the save system in case you do make a mistake or if the opponent gets too big of a lead on you or if you accidentally happen to get knocked out by a hurdle throw or whatever. So do that for heat 2 and then do that for heat 3, which is the final, and you should be able to take the gold medal in the event. Easy peasy, and we can move on to the next one. So those 3 wins should put us at the top of the podium on the score screen. Washington High should take first place and get 15 gold medals, and you should be good for the best performer bonus, which should give you another 5 medals. Moving on to the next event, which is going to be the hammer throw golf. You want to make sure you keep Todd as your character. Make sure you hit up the shop, and then we are going to buy a few power-ups. We are going to buy the rocket power-up as well as the sonic spin power-up. This game is normally going to be one of the harder games, but thanks to these 2 power-ups, we should have a way easier time around it. So make sure you buy those 2, and then we are going to adios our way over to the entrance, and then we are going to start up the game. So the combination of these 2 power-ups should make this game quite easier than it normally is. The automatic spin power-up will pretty much automatically give you the perfect spin, and then the rocket power-up will give you a rocket boost for your first 3 throws. So the combination of these 2 will pretty much give you as good a throw as you can for your first 3 throws, and they will always land in the green, free from hazards or any positions where it's hard to make a throw. So all you really have to do is just press the button and the game should automatically do its thing for the first 3 throws. Once you get to throw 4, you lose your rocket power up, but you do keep your auto spin. However, thanks to the rocket boost, you should have been able to clear a majority of the course's distance, so you should be able to make it in the hole on your 4th throw even without the last rocket boost. So with your last throw, you should be able to take the first round in a hole in 4. Then you have to watch your AI opponent go, and how well they do is going to be completely based in RNG, so this is going to take a little bit of luck. However, a hole in 4 is going to be a substantial margin to whatever the AI usually throws, which is anywhere from 7 to 10 throws, so you should be able to win this game thanks to those power-ups. After your opponent goes, you should take the gold, and then that's going to put us at 2 events. Then we're going to get into event 3 of the program, which is the swimming race. So make sure you, once again, select Todd, and this time we are going to make another stop by the shop. The power-up you want to buy this time around is going to be the Chomper, which is going to cost 15 gold medals. What this power-up is going to do is it will randomly send a swarm of piranhas after your opponent during the course of the race. This power-up is going to be very useful, especially if you are new to the game, although it is not 100% required like the previous two mini-games. The reason for that is if you are good enough at the race, you can probably do it without using the piranhas, so keep that in mind. So the goal of the swimming minigame is to try to drown your opponent. Basically, what you want to do is you want to keep these few strategies in mind. Always try to stay on top of your opponent rather than actually pursue them, and there are going to be two main ways you can achieve this. When your opponent is on the opposite side of you trying to catch their breath, make sure you jump over and try to keep them underwater. If they are trying to come from beneath you, what you want to do is you want to jump straight up, and as they are surfacing, you should land on top of them, which should keep them in the water. It's easier to kill them by having their oxygen deplete rather than actually you trying to fight them. The piranhas do help a bit, as you can see right here. They can help you out in a pinch, and especially when you are on the defense, but the name of the game is to try to keep your opponent under the surface as long as you can. Make sure you only pursue them when you have a substantial amount of oxygen over them, and other than that, you just want to keep these few strategies in mind. Once again, just like any of the other mini games, highly recommend taking advantage of the save system in case you do make a mistake and try to over pursue them. So the swimming minigame is going to be 3 heats in total, just like the hurdles, so keep that in mind. You're going to have to do this with 2 other opponents once you defeat the first opponent. So just make sure you keep up these same strategies. The opponents are going to vary based in RNG. Sometimes you'll get opponents with a ton of health and will control like tanks, so be a little patient with those guys, but you should be able to take anyone out thanks to the strategy, and if you are new to the game, the piranhas do help out a ton. So just make sure you take out all 3 opponents, and then we should be good to move on to the next event. So just wrap up the final. During the final, don't be too fixated on retaining your health going into the next event, because during the next event, there is going to be a way to heal yourself. So keep that in mind if you do get put into a situation where it requires you to risk a little bit of your health. Once you take the podium, you should get your gold medals, and then we can move on to event number 4, which is going to be the rooftop jumping race. Remember to pick Todd when it comes to the character selection screen, and then when you get to the actual shop, make sure you skip it. The reason for that is the power-up isn't going to be very useful, and thanks to the in-game save system, we actually don't need it. So Rooftop Racing is made pretty easy thanks to the use of the save system. All you have to do is just make sure you run forward, learn what the obstacles ahead are, and make sure you use the save system accordingly. So make a save right before you start and pretty much just run through the course and then pay attention to the obstacles. The course is never going to change depending on the playthrough, so you can keep what you've learned. And every time you make a significant amount of distance, what you want to do is you just want to make sure you make another save, and you just want to use that to progress through the level. So you're just going to grab the poles and then vault over the gaps. If there is a tightrope, you are going to want to use the unicycle. So just keep those 2 principles in mind and just make sure you get a feel for the course. Another thing you want to keep your eyes peeled for are going to be the 2 health potions. There's going to be one right there at the beginning of the middle part of the race that you have to get the angle of the pole vault just right. And then there is a second one that's going to be coming up that you are going to get in the middle of a unicycle tightrope. So make sure you grab those 2. You are going to need a full health bar going into the last mini game, especially if you took a ton of damage during the swimming mini game, since we are only limited to 1 character for this specific achievement. That being said, the last thing you want to keep in mind is you want to make sure you make a save right when you get to this final stretch right here. The reason for that is once you cross the finish line, you are going to have to watch your opponent go, and just like the mini golf mini game, this one's going to be based in RNG depending on how well your opponent does. So a little trick is to make sure you make a save right before the finish line, have your opponent go, and then watch how they do, and if they get a time that's faster than you, what you can do is you can reload from your save and pretty much get a different opponent out of the random pool. So hopefully fortune favors you and you draw an opponent who is going to run a significantly slower time than you, or even better yet, they fall into the pit a number of times up to the point where they lose all of their lives and have to forfeit the round. Nonetheless, both scenarios should lead to you taking the event and the gold medal, which will knock another one off of our list, leaving us with the last event to do. So we should get another set of medals and still be in the lead by quite a bit. We are going to start the next event, which is going to be the fighting event. Make sure you stick with Todd and then head over to the shops. We are going to buy a few power-ups for this one. So at this point, we should still have a pretty sizable lead in terms of the gold medal, but keep in mind that the final decision is going to be based on the total number of gold medals. So what that's going to mean is we can't spend too recklessly on the last event. So to save on medals, I only recommend buying the top and the bottom power-ups, the quick up and the spool job. They should only cost a total of 17 gold medals, which should allow us to keep our lead going into the last event. So, on to the actual fighting event. It's going to be 3 rounds against 3 different opponents, and your goal is to deplete your opponent of HP while trying to take as little damage as possible. You will recover your health between rounds, and if you get into a stalemate, you're going to have this little button mashing mini game where all you have to do is just tap the B button. If you happen to out tap your opponent by draining all of their PP, you are going to get the move by hitting the B button again, which should allow you to do a super move, which is going to do a significant amount of damage to your opponent. The 2 power-ups will basically give you this screw attack, which will allow you to roll into your opponent, and then the other one is going to allow your energy bar to fill way faster. So, because your energy bar is going to recover significantly faster, you should have the advantage most of the time when you get into a stalemate, which should allow you to get to your super moves earlier than your opponent, which means you should be able to win most of the fights quite easily just abusing the super moves. Just make sure you switch your hand over to the B button when the button mashing prompt comes up, and you should be good for winning every single one of the stalemates. Alternatively, this minigame is also going to be similar to the Rooftop Racing, which means you can completely just abuse the save system if you don't want to get too into the actual power-ups. So if you will go by that method, what you can do is you can damage your opponent and then make a save and then load up from the save every time you take a significant amount of damage, and you can pretty much just use that to whittle away your opponents just abusing the save system. That method also requires a bunch of patience, so you can pick whatever one suits you. But whatever the case, once you manage to take out all 3 opponents, you should take your final podium place and your final gold medals. The game is going to tally up the last few bonus medals. We should win Mr. Versatility as well as the tournament MVP. With that, we should have more than enough total gold medals in order to take the actual entire championship. And once you do, you should be good for the achievement once the credits start rolling. There it is, 100 gamer score, and that's all there is to it.